Madison365. Hopping on here live to talk to you about a story I just posted at Madison365.org. But it's got a lot of nuance to it, so I just wanted to kind of talk it through. I think this is something we might try to do a little bit more regularly. Some of you remember I used to be out here every day talking about COVID stuff and news that was happening back in 2020 until about 2022. But we haven't done that in a while, but we're going to try it again because I want to talk to you about this particular story and specifically about Madison Public Market, which, as you probably know, was supposed to open last month. It was supposed to open before that. It was supposed to open last fall. It was supposed to open 6 years ago. It was supposed to open like around 2020. We did a big story about how Melly Mills was going to be the one of the anchors there back in 2020. Obviously, pandemic happened. That didn't work out. It was a big groundbreaking last year. It was built out. It was going to open last fall. Then it was going to open in March. Then it was going to open in May. And now we are told it's going to open maybe in July. Because there have been significant delays in terms of construction and in terms of getting vendors in there. I was just there on Tuesday, and Melly Mills was the only place that was even begun to do anything. What we're going to talk about today is an issue that I think has led to some of the delays and some that might cause some difficulty for some of the vendors, namely that the vendors are having to pay for their own build out their own space, which in some cases, some estimates I've seen for a relatively small booth at the public market, if you're going to cook food and serve food, it's going to be like $100,000 to build it out. On top of that, if you're going to be required to pay for it, but also you have to use specific subcontractors for plumbing and electrical. Hooper Corporation for plumbing, and Forward Electric for the electrical. So that's the crux of the issue, and we'll talk a bit more detail about it. But basically, if you're a food business and you're trying to open at Madison Public Market, you're going to have to spend a lot of money to build out your space, just as you would if you were opening a restaurant anywhere else. And so you have to pay for it, and you have to use their approved contractors for your plumbing and electrical, regardless of who else does your architecture or your build out. And just the plumbing and electrical, based on some estimates I've seen, can range from $24,000 up to $40,000. Now, there is some grant funding. The city made some funding available for about $500,000 to split up among those 10 or so food vendors. So that'll cover some of it, but not all of it. So when I heard about this, the question is, as a journalist, it's only news if it's unusual. Right? The fact that it costs a lot of money to start a business is not news. However, is it the fact that this is a public market and it's this mission-driven thing, does that make it different? And so I asked Alfonso Morales, a professor of urban development at the University of Wisconsin, who is an expert in public markets. And he told me, no, that's not typical. Usually, if it's a public market, especially if it's a mission-driven public market and not a purely commercial enterprise, the market itself, whatever organization owns and operates the market, will pay to build out the spaces with their own contractors or whatever, and then build that cost into the rent. It's also not normal, he said, for the public market to require vendors to use specific contractors for anything, for any reason. So that's the crux of the issue that we're running into, that some vendors are running into, that some vendors are questioning. Also, I wanted to find out if the prices for those subcontractors were typical. Right? It's again, if we have to use these subcontractors, but they're the same price as you'd find anywhere else, that's probably not a big problem. I did talk with a contractor who had was kind of trying to bid to work out of the public market a little bit, and he told me, that I could get people to do it for half that. Also, I'll mention, if this was a city project, this is a city-owned building, but it's not a city project at this point. If it were a city project, there would have to be some sort of MBE consideration in the proposals. You'd have to have a certain number of minority-owned businesses bid on the project. You don't have to give them preferential treatment, but you just have to make sure that there's enough certified MBEs, minority business enterprises, putting in proposals. I don't think the public market did any of that, which if you look at their mission statement and if you look at their website, madisonpublicmarket.org, they're very mission driven about specifically helping minority and women-owned businesses get started. So, a couple things. First of all, if you're trying to help a business, a minority-owned business that has obstacles that's typically, historically marginalized, if you're trying to help them get started, it doesn't make sense to treat them as a typical commercial lease. Part of the website says this is mission driven. We're trying to help minority businesses get started. Another part says, just like a typical commercial lease, you have to build out your own space. But the point is that this is not supposed to be a typical commercial lease, and that's what's causing people to ask questions. And that's what Alfonso Morales would say, that this is not a typical commercial lease. It's a public market. It's a mission-driven enterprise. So there's that. And the other piece about on the helping minority-owned businesses get started is, why not extend that to the contractors? So you're going to have 28 vendors, 10 of them food-related, and 18 just retail spaces. And we'll talk about those in a second. So you're going to focus on those being minority-owned, women-owned, etc., and helping them get started, but helping them get started through some grant funding, not by building out their spaces for them. But also, you have a bunch of contractors who could be working on these places, and you're not extending any sort of minority-owned, woman-owned consideration to those contractors. So that's also causing some questions. Now, there are, as I mentioned, many retail businesses, and I talked to some of those. I talked with Lionel Richardson, who founded Ancestral Tribe Custom Apparel in 2022. Since then, he has been selling like at pop-up events, vendor events, festivals and fairs and things. And his wife, Lakeisha Johnson, has been running her business, Unique Hair Accessories, in similar spaces, right? And they are going to share a location at the public market. And because they don't have plumbing to worry about, really, right? They have very low barrier to entry, which is great. And they're going to continue to do their pop-ups and their vendor fairs and everything like that, but they also have a permanent location. And it's also, by the way, a year-round location, which is nice. So they're very excited, and they're going to have they have 4 kids, all of whom are like working age and older. So they're going to keep doing the vendor fairs and stuff, but have a permanent presence at the public market, which is great. Artworking, which is a nonprofit arts organization that supports artists with developmental disabilities. They're going to have a vending machine there, which I thought was fantastic. It's an arts vending machine where for anywhere between $3 and $20 the stuff is going to be for sale. Postcards and little prints and things, other artistic impulse purchases. But because they're a small arts nonprofit, they don't have staff to be there all the time. But they've got this little vending machine, and all they need is an outlet to plug it in, which is great. Several of I talked with one other food vendor, also City Smash, which is a very popular smash burger food cart, which also does churros. The Sin City it's CINN, short for cinnamon, which is the core ingredient of the churro, if you don't know. they've been doing really well at sort of typical food truck locations outside of bars, private events, and things like that. They're going to continue to do the food truck, although they're going to scale back the food truck this year while they're ramping up inside public market. But they told me that yes, the plumbing and electrical is on the high side, but everything's expensive right now, and that the public market staff has been very supportive and helpful in not only securing additional funding, but also negotiating prices down. And they feel very supported, and they acknowledge that they wouldn't be able to open a restaurant anywhere else, even with the build-out costs. It's more doable for them than it would be just to get a spot on downtown somewhere. So that's great for them. Now, one wrinkle to this is that they were told, Sin City Smash guys, which are Rutger Scheiser and Max Perdomo, were told that they had to use this specific plumber and this specific electrician because of city licensing requirements, because it's a city-owned building. So to work on a city-owned building, you have to have these certain pre-qualifications through the city, a special licensure through the city, and that's not true. They were given bad information. Keisha Harrison, the CEO of the Madison Public Market, did not talk to me, but did answer some questions in writing, and acknowledged that they had that wrong, that they thought that was the case, and they told people that, but then realized it was wrong and corrected people. I just talked to the Sin City Smash guys on Tuesday or Wednesday. So if they did correct that, it was very recent. In any case, they still are sticking with the requirement that those two specific subcontractors be used because they're the ones who put in the electricity and the plumbing for the shell, for the big build out of the whole building. And therefore they're most familiar with it, therefore they're least likely to make mistakes probably. When you're dealing with electricity and plumbing, like it affects the entire building. If you get some other electrical contractor in, does something wrong, starts a fire, I don't know, it could affect everyone. So that's the reasoning, and it does make some sense. However, it doesn't seem that it seems that it could be like a preferred vendor without being required. So by and large, the space is beautiful. I was over there. There's very little happening in terms of vendors going in. Keisha told me that they had 5 vendors start this week, or start building in this week. I did not see that on Tuesday when I was there. I saw Millie Mills, which is sort of one of the anchor tenants there, has started. All her fridges and everything are still in boxes, and there's no walls or anything. But it started, and it's possible that the other 5 have started since Tuesday. But it's going to be at least July before they open, which is all right. I mean, we've been trying to do this for 20 years. What's a couple more months, right? Anyway, it's over on the east side. It's on North First Street. The artwork on the outside is beautiful. It's gonna be a very cool thing. It's just that there's this couple little issues that could possibly be an impediment for especially those minority-owned small businesses that they're trying to support, and maybe somebody will want to rethink that, but I don't know. That's not for me to say. I'm just here to inform, and I heard about this, and it seemed off to me, so I looked into it, and that's what I'm reporting. Even with that issue, most of the people I talked to are very excited to be there, and have said nothing but good things about the staff there. So the story's up right now at Madison365.org. Give it a look. And if you want to listen to me and my wife Stephanie talk about it, it's on the 365 Amplified podcast. If you go to wherever you get your podcast, your favorite podcast app, Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Overcast or whatever, just look for 365 Amplified and listen to today's episode, and then it's all there. All right, with that, I'm going to sign off. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay dry. Stay inside tonight. Apparently, it's going to be kind of wild out there, so I'll talk to you again soon.